Now we're going to switch gears, Jonathan. We're going to talk about something that's going to make us both smile. We're going to talk some West Virginia hoops, man.
There we go. My
voice even cracked a little bit when I said that. We're going to talk about West Virginia's upset of number 3 Gonzaga in the first round of the battle for Atlantis. West Virginia with a 12-point win over the Zags. What are your thoughts? Everybody got to hear my thoughts in my post-game live reaction show, but I want to hear your thoughts on the game.
Yeah, so I was able to watch it today, and maybe we can touch base on these and just kind of gold and blue breakdown these individually here. But so I kind of just wrote them down really in no particular order. One of the first things that stuck out to me, just because I feel like West Virginia's been historically bad, 15 of 16 from the free throw line to end regulation and overtime. That was really important. Tucker DeVries hit 2 free throws that were very much needed to get that game tied to eventually lead to overtime, I believe. So that was huge. West Virginia was just extremely, extremely clutch from the foul line. I'll note 2 players, Javon Small. Just how good was he today?
Amazing.
42 minutes. At 31 points and was 9 of 11 from the foul line. That was crazy. Amani Hansberry, to me, Couz, maybe more so than Javon Small, and I probably shouldn't have worded it that way because they both were really good. He is so undersized and been asked to do so much down low. 19 points, 8 rebounds with a heart of a 7'4" guy. He battled. And even though he's a little undersized, one thing he did really well was stretch that floor a little bit and was able to hit some threes. Didn't have the biggest stat sheet, but how about Sincere Harris?
Oh, my gosh. His defense today.
He held Nembhard to, 1 of 10, I believe it was.
Yes, and 7 points, man.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
What a job.
Thank you for mentioning him because I put a tweet out on the Hoops from the Hills Twitter account saying nobody's talking, not enough people are talking about Sincere Harris, because I was paying attention to that today because I knew Ryan. I mean, we've seen it seems like Ryan Nembhard's been at Gonzaga for 20 years. I know how good he is, and I'm thinking, and he is freaking. He's amazing. He's a great player.
Yeah, and
Sincere Harris absolutely locked him down, man.
Yeah, he played well. Had a steal late. Actually hit some free throws late. And pardon me for not knowing this, but I think the broadcast, which they were wrong on a couple things, I won't go there, but I believe they said that was his first free throws of the season, and he knocked those down. So that was really good. And then I'll tell you one that probably, I'll say 2 more things, but this one I didn't have on my bingo card today at all. West Virginia out-rebounded Gonzaga 42-36.
Yes. That was the difference in the game to me.
It was a huge difference. Absolutely was the difference in the game. We'll go back to the first game of the season for West Virginia, and we said, this is going to be a problem. This is going to be a problem. And it just kept rebounding. Gonzaga's big and talented down low.
Yes.
But that didn't go back to Sincere Harris. They were so aggressive on the boards. And then my final thing really isn't much of a point. Man, it feels good.
Oh yeah, dude! I haven't been that excited about a basketball game in a long time, man.
Yeah, so it really, that final point of mine doesn't have much to do with the game per se. There's no statistics there. Not pointing to one in general thing. Just an overall arching theme was, you know what? Good for Mountaineer Nation, man. It's been a struggle in the athletic department. Even going back to last year for the basketball team. And you know what? Gosh darn it, they deserve it, And if anything else, and I'd include us kind of a part of that, but more so to everybody else out there, you know what? Enjoy it. You deserve it. And good for West Virginia and Mountaineer Nation to just go to bed tonight feeling pretty darn good about themselves.
Yep. Listen, I want Also, shout out Tucker DeVries, man.
Yeah.
I want to read it for those of you who may not have heard my post game show. Listen to this stat line: 16 points, 4 blocks. Okay, he's a 6'7" guy. He's not 7 foot tall. 4 blocks, 2 steals, and both of them ended up. One was the 2 free throws at the end that you mentioned, and then he had one early in the game that led to a dunk. Both steals led to points. 4 assists, 6 rebounds. 6 of 7 from the free throw line, 2 of 6 from 3, which is really kind of low for him. 4 of 9 from the floor overall.
Yeah.
I mean, that is one of the best all-around stat lines I've seen in a long, long time by basketball. I mean, there was nothing in his leadership on the court, man. I was calling him Coach DeVries 2.0. He is like a coach out there, man. He is. He's telling the guys to calm down. Hey, the game ain't over. We can't get too high yet. You know, let's keep playing. He's telling everybody where to go. He made a couple of plays. I was watching how he was moving without the ball, Jonathan, and he knows the way he comes off screens, the way he screens to get himself open, and even other people at times, but even the way he screens to get himself open is pretty cool. It's just fun. Like he just does all the little small things right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? His basketball IQ is extremely high.
Yeah.
This and really the whole team's basketball IQ is high. You can watch this team and you just know right off the bat, this is a well-coached basketball team.
Yeah.
They know how to play the game. They do it the right way. They hustle. They're physical. They don't take plays off. I mean, I'm concerned about all the minutes their starters had to play. I'm worried. I'm really worried it's going to impact them in tomorrow's game or today's game if you're watching this on Thursday.
Yeah.
But I'm concerned about that.
Yeah, concerned there. And I even I will say this: Tucker is another coach, obviously a branch of his dad on the court, and it shows. And it shows. I kind of tweeted during the game. It just felt like that the Gonzaga eventually started doing what they knew they could do well. Right, that was attacking the paint. Mm-hmm. And West Virginia, it felt like because of that lack of size, kept being a little bit more reliant on shooting threes.
Right.
But then I was curious to see the points in the paint. Gonzaga 30, West Virginia 28.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
And what's weird about it is, and I'm speaking for myself here, Couz, it didn't seem that way during the game. I just felt like it was just West Virginia was kind of more to that outside for obvious reasons. And then I guess finally I would just say question answered. And what I mean by that is there was a lot of questions after that Pitt game. Fortunately, I didn't get to see that game. I was in Morgantown watching the women's team play Texas A&M, and so I didn't get to watch the West Virginia Pitt game. And then after I saw the score, I thought, the heck with that. I'm not going back and watching that. So I never did. So I can sit here and directly say that I don't know what that game looked like, but I got a pretty darn good feeling what it did look like, and it wasn't pretty. There was a lot of questions about this team, and boy, did they answer it. And what started out against Gonzaga as, okay, they're not quitting. They're fighting. They're playing hard. It slowly evolved into Gonzaga was up 10. And if there was ever a reason for West Virginia just to kind of quit, it would have been then against the number 3 team in the country when you're down 10.
Yep.
And then it just kept evolving, and it kept evolving. How about this? Down 5 with 25 seconds left. That's the pure definition of not quitting. And so just overall, I guess it's hard to wipe the smile off our face. We feel a little bit good because, man, it just feels like you've been down and out and you've been kicked so many times that it was just nice to get one. You know, it was just nice to get one, and good for this team, good for these players, good for the staff. I got to tell you, it almost had me in defensive stance watching the game, watching DeVries on the sideline.
Yes.
His energy is contagious.
Yes, it is. That's exact words I used. I didn't
it's contagious.
The stance part, but I said it's the exact same thing. He's so calm in his press conferences. He's so soft spoken.
Yeah.
And then he gets on the sidelines, and it's just like there's a fire in his belly, and you can see the competitor come out in him, and I love that about him.
Yeah,
But he doesn't go he doesn't go overboard with it, though. You know what I mean? It's just a passion and a desire. I love it.
And what I like most about it, and again, we're early on into this. We're 5 games into this with DeVries, but he's never had a technical, and his energy is 100% to the team. And I think the players feed off of that. It just really good. I mean, we could just sit here and go through list after list after list, but those were some things that jumped out to me. Now, shifting gears to the next game, Louisville in a similar situation to West Virginia, right? I mean, they were a disaster of a program, and boy, they've been through it the last couple of years. Now they're trying to turn around, just like West Virginia is. They've got a brand new coach, one that was linked to West Virginia for a little bit.
Yep,
Pat Kelsey was linked to West Virginia as a possible candidate. They upset Indiana, who was 14th, maybe, in the country. And so now you've got 2 teams that are just they're up and coming. They're new faces, from coaches to players. It's a great point by you. Be curious to see West Virginia. I think played. They played 7 guys,
8 total, but
8 guys, but only KJ Tenner played 5 minutes.
Yeah, he didn't play very much at all. He was way over. The physicality of that game was too much for him. And I'm not throwing shade at him at all. He's a true freshman. True freshmen typically aren't. They don't come in with the physicality, the body to play those Gonzagas and I just don't think he's ready yet for that level of physicality. Jonathan Powell didn't play as many minutes as he had been either. But he did. I mean, he played some valuable minutes, don't get me wrong. But
he's your 3-point guy, and he was 0 for 6 today.
Yeah,
and listen, it's not a critique, but this was just but I tell you what, that's what I can appreciate about this team, right? Is that it was easy for Tucker and Sincere and Javon to kind of realize that these freshmen, you're playing the number 3 team in the country. And I like how they were able to step up in that moment and take over the ballgame. And that's exactly what they did, because they took over the ballgame, especially when you're down 5 with 25 seconds left. So, just really excited. If you weren't excited before this game with Gonzaga, you're excited now. It proved to me, even if they had lost, the win is icing on the cake, right?
Mm-hmm.
But even if there was a loss, I think you could still sit back and say, you know what, they answered the question. Is this more about West Virginia versus Gonzaga, or is this more about West Virginia versus Pitt? Which game was not correct?
Mm-hmm.
You'd like to think you just maybe you're the Gonzaga team, because they are the number 3 team in the country, and West Virginia looked really good, so was encouraging.
Yep, absolutely. And I do want to touch a little bit on the Louisville, because I did do some little bit of research on them before we jumped on here. A lot of similarities. You talked about their situation being similar. Here's what else is similar. They have both played one Power 4 team before this tournament. Both of them got boat raced. Louisville got boat raced by Tennessee by 22 points on their home floor. So, I'm sure their fan base was probably feeling about the same as – now, theirs wasn't to an arch rival, so maybe a little different. But still, they were probably, okay, is this really the guy? And then they went out and they boat raced an inferior opponent, a smaller opponent, a mid-major or minor, mid-minor, whatever you call it. I don't know. I can't remember all the terms, but you get my point. I think it was Morehead State or somebody.
Morehead State, Baylor.
Yeah,
right there in Kentucky.
So very similar situations. I mean, they had played 3 or 4 games against some inferior opponents, and they had beaten soundly, and then they got boat raced by a Power 4 team, just like West Virginia.
Yeah.
And they go out and they upset a ranked team. West Virginia goes out and upsets a ranked team. So it's very intriguing, the similarities between these 2 teams, but it's a couple players to watch for them. They have a really good point guard named Chucky Hepburn. And you talk about smooth. That cat he is a typical distributor of the basketball. Now, he can score it. He's averaging 10.5 a game, but he's also averaging 4 assists, and he's really good at throwing lobs, getting the ball into his bigs, and just distributing the ball. But I'm going to be anxious to see, can Sincere Harris keep up the level of energy that he had against Nimhard, can he have that same level of energy against Hepburn in this Louisville game? And then they just like Gonzaga, they've got some bigs. West Virginia's got faces another team that has 2 or 3 guys in there 7 foot. They've got Noah Waterman at 6'11", a transfer from BYU, and then they've got Kashawn Pryor at 6'10", who's a senior, averaging 12.5 a game and 6.5 rebounds a game. And then they have Terrence Edwards, a guard, who averages 12.3 a game, and then Rain Smith, I guess is how you pronounce his name, a shooter. The young guy he's putting up 10 threes a game almost.
Whoa.
So he loves to shoot them in volume, but he's shooting almost a 50% clip. It's like a 41% clip, I think is what he's shooting it at, averaging 14.8 points, and he's off the bench. So very, very and he came over with Coach
Kelsey.
Kelsey from Charleston. So it's going to be a very interesting matchup here. I'll be interested to see, like I said, can the West Virginia guys, are they still going to have their legs? Because, the Louisville game was kind of a blowout. They weren't having the stress and strain as much at the end as West Virginia was. And I think that matters, man. As I've coached AAU ball, and I've seen the difference when you play these teams and blow them out. You can get your subs in the game. Your starters get rest. And they're also not pressing. And I've also played games where we had to come back to win a game. My girls were gassed after the game because of the effort it took to come back. And then, oh, by the way, in 2 hours, we got to go play the same team again. I mean, I've had that happen. So now this is not the same day, but it's less than a 24-hour turnaround, and they have to turn around and play again at noon.
Yeah.
After getting done at what, 5 o'clock?
Yeah.
So it's going to be a challenge for them, in my opinion. They played the late game. Louisville played the early game, so they get a couple more hours of rest. So I'm going to be anxious to see how they handle it. And Tucker, he was already starting to cramp up, and he's talked about how he has cramping. He's had cramping issues throughout his career. Yeah. So I'm going to be concerned about that a little bit too, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. It'd be interesting. And obviously there's a lot of excitement and build up to play the number 3 team in the country.
Yep.
And to have that level and not even be decided in regulation, you go to overtime. It's difficult to climb that mountain and then not completely fall back off of it, right? So, but one thing we know about a Pat Kelsey coach team is they're going to play hard.
Absolutely.
Just as much as we can sit here and talk about Darian DeVries and how passionate he is, Pat Kelsey's similar. So Louisville's going to play hard. That was an 8-point game against Indiana at halftime, and that they just flat ran them in the second half. So, but you know what? Hey, a good test for West Virginia. This is what this is about, right? And if you're West Virginia, you lost to Pitt earlier. When you started looking, how many games did you need out of conference? If the expectation is the NCAA tournament, how many wins did you need to get out of conference? Because it's a gauntlet in the Big 12, and it's almost Gonzaga week in, week out, right? So, or a couple times a week. So the question is, you replaced Pitt with a big statement win against Gonzaga, and we think Pitt's at the end of the day not going to be a bad loss, right? I think they're going to be pretty good this year.
They're ranked 13th in KenPom right now, by the way.
Yeah. So if you're West Virginia, you've got to keep that mentality of you're trying to stack resume wins, and it's early in the season, but that's where you're at. I mean, because you feel like you're going to get an upset or two, and you're going to build your resume maybe in the Big 12. And so I'm not trying to get ahead of myself here after 5 games in the season, but this is an opportunity to continue to build that resume. And so you picked up a game today with Gonzaga that, if we're being transparent, you probably didn't think you were going to get. And so now's an opportunity to beat a Louisville team, and then I'd have to look a little further into the bracket, what's next. But there's an opportunity here to get a couple wins, and you kind of stole one against Gonzaga, if you will. Yep. The flip side of that is, how confident are they? I mean, we're talking about climbing and then falling just because of how hard it took to get to that point to beat them. But then the other side of that is maybe they just ride that fire for a little bit longer. And so we'll see. Something tells me that this West Virginia team's DeVries is not going to let them just kind of come back down. So can't wait to watch it. It's going to make for a good Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it will. I'm excited about it too, man. you've always heard Huggins say, I think it was Huggins I heard say this, this win that we wanted to win the game. It was a big win, but it doesn't matter if we go out and lose tomorrow.
Yeah, it's a good point.
And I kind of see it. I don't see it quite that way here. I think if they lose to Louisville and they can go win their third game in this tournament, I think they get to play another one, right?
They do. They do.
That would probably be, if they could leave it 2-1 with a win over the number 3 team in the country. That's probably okay. But like you said, man, I was looking at the schedule as you were talking, man. They almost have to go undefeated the rest of the way if they want to make the NCAA tournament, in my opinion. When you look at the schedule, they have to play in the Big 12.
Yeah, it's tough.
They almost have to go undefeated. That or they're going to have to reel off 9 or 10 wins in conference play, which is going to be tough. Really hard to do.
Yeah.
So they don't have a whole lot of room for error, in my opinion, to make March. Now, I didn't expect them to make the tournament personally, but I'm sure they do. I'm sure their expectation is to make it, right? So they need to win this Louisville game, but the odds are kind of stacked against them. But sometimes that's when teams play at their best. So we'll see how they handle the adversity of playing back-to-back games.
Yeah, I agree. And we're maybe sitting here 5 games in and thinking NCAA tournament. That's great. I think we did a show and I said I thought 15 was low. I thought 20 was high. So if I had to pick, I'd say somewhere about 17. You're at 4 wins. If you could sneak another one here in this tournament, you're at 5. You've got Georgetown, maybe. You've got NC Central, Bethune, Mercyhurst, and then you get in. So you're at 8. You've got to come up, like you said, you've got to come up with 9, 10 wins, 8, 9, 10 wins in the Big 12. That's going to be tough.
Yeah.
So I think it goes to what my last point was on the Gonzaga game is just, it was nice to get one and just enjoy it. And what happens down the road happens, but you've got opportunity, and that's a word you and I have talked about a lot on our shows. And you had an opportunity today, and you took advantage of it.
Yep.
And tomorrow's another good opportunity, or our next game against Louisville is another opportunity.
Absolutely. Real quick before we go, Jonathan, I always intend to do this earlier in the show, and sometimes I forget. Let everybody know where to find you and your work.
Yeah, so I'm on X, Twitter, whichever one you're still calling it these days, at Jonathan K. Martin. I'm easy to find on there. There's no H in Jonathan. So at Jonathan K. Martin. And, I'm kind of best known for just I do a lot of live tweeting during the games. I'd love to interact with you. Come on over there. A lot of links to your stuff here where we kind of collaborate together. And so, yeah, easy to find. And I do want to say before we end, this Gold and Blue Breakdown's been a blast, Couz. It's just kind of new to me. You're the man when it comes to this type stuff and kind of leading the way on it. I didn't quite know what I was getting into when I agreed to show this on camera to start this season, but it's been an absolute blast. And so, going into the last regular season of the weekend, I just want to say thank you for it. I've enjoyed it. For everybody that's listened, everybody that's watched, everybody that's given feedback and interacted with us, it's been a blast. I appreciate it. I know Couz appreciates it. And I think we're going to be able to maybe keep this mug around just a little bit longer to have some fun. So
this marriage is not ending yet, man. So
I've had a blast with it. I hope everybody following the show has. And so we're going to have some more fun.
That's right. That's right. Listen, everybody, thank you for tuning in. And by the way, if you're listening on podcast, it's Jonathan, JONATHANK Martin, and I'm at Couz206. Find us on X. And there's also the show has a page too. It's at GB Breakdown _. We don't do as much over there as we should. But there is one over there. If you want to interact with us through that, you can send us a DM or something there as well. You can go to my website, Couz'sCorner.com as well. There are blog articles over there written by some of my some other Couz's Corner team members and a few by myself that I've done over the course of a few months. And we just appreciate everybody. I appreciate you supporting our work. I appreciate you watching, listening, reading, everything we do. Without further ado, we are done for this show. We'll see you on the next one. We're out. Q Country Roads.